Welcome back to Study Prep, guys. CSEC, everyone. It is nice to be back with you. I have recently changed my logo, so I just wanted to get that out of the way. Anyways, guys, we will be starting the Human and Social Biology, all terms and concepts. CSEC, this will be a very short course of a lot of videos, which will be approximately around 50 videos, which will be very short videos that deals with all concepts and terms for CSEC, Human and Social Biology. These classes will be usually between 2 to 3 minutes. They will be very short. With that said, let's actually start this paper. Let's actually start the concepts now. So first of all, our agenda within these classes will consist mainly of section 1, section 2, and section 3, which will deal with individual aspects of the entire human and social biology syllabus. So let's look at the introductory concept. We'll start off with the first concept, which is the cell. The cell is the basic unit of all living organisms. It is one of the smallest units of all living organisms. So if we look at the characteristics of cells, there are different parts of the cell membrane: cytoplasm, nucleus, mitochondria, and the endoplasmic reticulum, ribosome, vacuole cell wall, and chloroplast. Now let's take a look at all of these different parts. The cell membranes controls what substances enter and leave the cell, meaning that they control what enter, what goes in, and what goes out of the cell. The cytoplasm supports the organelles, the site of many chemical reactions. The cytoplasm is where chemical reactions take place within the cell. They have the nucleus, which controls the characteristics and function of the cell, essential for liver division. The mitochondrion, which is the powerhouse in most cases, this is where respiration occurs. The endoplasmic reticulum transports substances throughout the cell. The ribosome, this is where proteins are produced in the plant cell. The vacuole stores food. Cell wall supports and protects the plant cells and gives it a basic definitive shape. And the chloroplast is where photosynthesis occurs. So let's look at cell specialization. You guys could see that on the screen. The human body is composed of trillions of cells. These cells are of different groups, which create specialization, such as the epithelial, sperm or the spermatozoa, the egg, the nerve cells, and the muscle. All of these are created through specialization. So let's look at visual representation of these types of cells. This is section 2, which looks at the actual visual representations of these cells. So the types of cell specialization as seen on the screen, they all have different parts. You guys could take the video and look at the different parts. With that said, this is the final section of this is the questions for the viewers. The questions are on the screen. You guys could actually type your messages in the comments, or you can actually DM me personally for more information. With that said, thank you guys. Subscribe to the Study Prep Guys channel. Welcome back again to the Study Prep Guys channel. This is a continuation of the full course on Human and Social Biology syllabus, the complete syllabus from the Human and Social Biology CSEC subject. So without further ado, we'll start on the second segment, or the second episode of this very, very long continuation that we will have to do for the entire course of Human and Social Biology. Without further ado, let's actually start. We're starting with the second topic on the Human and Social Biology syllabus, which is a very important term, which is osmosis. So the agenda of this video is the definition, the purpose, the function, and a visual illustration, and a Q&A for my subscribers and my audience to actually answer. So what is osmosis in general? Osmosis is the spontaneous movement of solvent molecules. Osmosis in its entirety is the movement or the spontaneous movement of solvents molecules through a semi-permeable membranes from a region of low solute or low concentration to a region of high concentration or region of high solute concentration. So what is the purpose of osmosis in its entirety? So osmosis usually is really important for the regulation, or what we consider to be homeostasis, which is the regulation of body temperatures. Without osmosis being in place, the body would in some cases overheat and in some cases be fluctuated, and if we do not have homeostasis, we cannot maintain life. So it's very important that osmosis does occur, and that's its purpose. So let's look at examples of osmosis or a visual illustration of it. So, as I said before, the regulation of temperature, sweating, and chill bumps, etc. That's the real reason for actually osmosis in real life and as relates back to the human race. So with that, let's look at the Q&A. That's some questions that you guys could actually answer. Distinguish between diffusion and osmosis. The questions are right there. Tell me guys what you think in the chat, and this is it for this video. Welcome back to the Study Progress channel, everyone. Today we've taken a look at the food chain. This is episode 3 on the continuation of the Human and Social Biology syllabus, complete syllabus or complete course on Human and Social Biology. Without further ado, let's actually start on the food chain. So a food chain is a diagram showing the flow of food and energy from one organism to the next. Something that needs to be noted is that in the food chain, there are usually tropical levels, usually from producer, primary producer, secondary consumer, the tertiary consumer, and the quaternary consumer. There are basically 5 levels to the tropical levels in the food chain process. So a food chain usually inclusive of a producer. This is an example of this is a green plant, a primary consumer that eats the primary producer, which is the first part of it, a secondary consumer that eats the primary consumer, a tertiary consumer that eats the secondary consumer, and some food chains may also include a quaternary consumer that eats the tertiary. So consumers can be classified mainly into 3 categories: herbivores, which consumes plants or plant materials only; carnivores consumes animals only or animal materials only; and omnivores eat both animal and plants. So a food chain, in its simplest of terms, is a diagram that shows the flow of food, as I said before. So something that you need to note is that energy from sunlight enters living organisms through photosynthesis occurring in green plants. That means the first process or the first person in the food chain, which is the producer, needs to go through photosynthesis to actually produce energy. So these are known as producers. The energy is incorporated into organic food molecules produced by the plants and is passed on to consumers through food chains. Welcome back to the Study Progress channel, everyone. Today we've taken a look at the food chain. This is episode 3 on the continuation of the Human and Social Biology syllabus, complete syllabus or complete course on Human and Social Biology. Without further ado, let's actually start on the food chain. So a food chain is a diagram showing the flow of food and energy from one organism to the next. Something that needs to be noted is that in the food chain, there are usually tropical levels, usually from producer, primary producer, secondary consumer, the tertiary consumer, and the quaternary consumer. There are basically 5 levels to the tropical levels in the food chain process. So a food chain usually inclusive of a producer. This is an example of this is a green plant, a primary consumer that eats the primary producer, which is the first part of it, a secondary consumer that eats the primary consumer, a tertiary consumer that eats the secondary consumer, and some food chains may also include a quaternary consumer that eats the tertiary. So consumers can be classified mainly into 3 categories: herbivores, which consumes plants or plant materials only; carnivores consumes animals only or animal materials only; and omnivores eat both animal and plants. So a food chain, in its simplest of terms, is a diagram that shows the flow of food, as I said before. So something that you need to note is that energy from sunlight enters living organisms through photosynthesis occurring in green plants. That means the first process or the first person in the food chain, which is the producer, needs to go through photosynthesis to actually produce energy. So these are known as producers. The energy is incorporated into organic food molecules produced by the episode 4, which deals with nutrition on the entire CSEC syllabus for human and social biology. This is the Study Prep Guys podcast on human and social biology, full course on CSEC, human and social biology prep 2026, May, June, and January. With that said, let's actually start. So, first of all, let's look at the definition of what nutrition is. Nutrition is a process by which living organisms make or create food, say in general. If you were to look at what type of nutrition they rich, they're meaning like, for example, carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. But mainly for this class, we'll take a look at carbohydrates. Carbohydrates include reducing sugars, non-reducing sugars, and starch. They are molecules composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms. The rule of hydrogen atoms, oxygen atoms is always is 2 to 1. So that means the ratio between hydrogen atoms, oxygen atoms is usually 2:1. That's why we have H2O. Based on their chemical structure, carbohydrates can be classified into three groups mainly, and that is monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Monosaccharides are the simplest carbohydrate molecule, meaning that the mono being basic, mono being one. So they have the formula C6H12O6. All monosaccharides are reduced in sugars. So we have something called disaccharides, which are formed, or which are basically two, di being two, are formed by chemically joining two monosaccharides molecules together. They have the formula C12H12O11, or oxygen 11. All disaccharides are reduced in sugars except sucrose, which is a non-reducing sugar. Then we have polysaccharides are formed by joining many monosaccharides molecules into straight or branch change. Polysaccharides include starch, cellulose, and glycogen, animal starch. So these are basically, at least from what you could see on the screen, the types of carbohydrates if we were to look at them from a subatomic level, which is if you were to look at it from the singular monosaccharide molecules to the two monosaccharides, which is basically a disaccharides. We have condensation process, which is the joining molecules with the loss of water, and we have hydrolysis, which is splitting molecules by adding water. So condensation is a joining together of molecules with the loss of water. Hydrolysis is the splitting molecules by adding water. So one is joining and one is actually splitting or actually dividing. So if you were to look at the properties of these different carbohydrates, if you look at, for example, at the carbohydrate which is reducing agents, or you look at the reduced agents, all of them have a sweet taste, soluble in water, and react with the Benedict solution, meaning that they spread out. And within this part, we usually have the glucose, fructose, galactose, maltose, and lactose. And then we have the non-reducing sugars. They have a sweet taste, soluble in water. However, they do not react with the Benedict solution. And this is the only exception, which is the sucrose or a disaccharide. If we look at starch, does not have a sweet taste, meaning that it has sour or very bitter taste, and it's basically insoluble in water, and it reacts with the iodine solution. However, the iodine solution and the Benedict solution, just to note, are totally two different things. So let's look at recognizing carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. So something to note that is very important is that for every different reaction, tests can be actually deduced to identify carbohydrates, protein, and lipids. Apart from the tests for lipids, the tests are usually carried out on about 2 centimeter cube of solution of the test substance, meaning that it's carried out in a test tube. Example of this, just skip that. Just to note, guys, you could just look at that. This is the tests and results, or positive results, that would usually be inclusive if the test is to be successful, or some ways you could actually look at it. I will make a separate video on this here, but you guys could just take a look and tell me what you think about it in the comments below. Let's go on. This is the Benedict solutions, and this is the iodine solutions. I just said before, they're totally two different tests in general. Reducing sugars from an orange red precipitate with Benedict solution, and starch turns iodic solutions blue black. So you could take that into that consideration. So note, the food and animals eat is called a diet. So something a lot of students probably miss happen is that they get mixed up with what a diet actually is. If you want to make it simpler for yourself, the food an animal eat is called a diet. I want you to when you utilize the term animal, this is both for Homo sapiens, which is humans, and all creatures on Earth. It's a more unilateral term, that it actually subdivides into all categories of humans and all categories of animals because humans in basic try basic sense are animals. Anyways, let's look at the definition, and this is the last piece of note that we have on nutrition, which is a balanced diet. So humans consume must consume a balanced diet every day. This could include starch, legumes. It could also include fruits, vegetables, fats, and oils, and staples and food from animals. All of these are necessary in order for the human being to survive and actually have a healthy lifestyle and healthy body. All of the following on the table, or at least on the circular table there, are vital for the human being to actually maintain proper proportions, supply the food with enough energy for daily activities, and the correct materials for growth and development. With that said, the source for this is the Concise Revision course. This is the new edited Collins version of the CSEC Human and Social Biology syllabus. So you guys could know that you're getting the information from the right source. This source is only explanatory. It could also be unilaterally for other students of other categories, including SCT and other sections, but this is purely for CSEC students. It could be utilized for other students, but for the moment, it's mainly CSEC. Anyways, guys, see you at the next video. All the best. Alright, everyone, welcome back again to the Study Prep Guys channel. It is nice to be back with you. Due to recent comments, I did have a comment that said they wanted some preparation for um, human and social biology. So, what's up, people? If you guys like the background, there will be more like this coming very soon. I was a bit out because I had to purchase this till in Brazil. I was in Brazil recently. I will be going to do a live vlog probably within the next week on an American trip where I will be visiting America. But I didn't really do a lot of recording as relates back to the Brazilian trip. So we're starting on the human and social biology paper once. We work in the paper tools for the studies. But as we now come back, he will be taking a look at the human and social biology paper ones. And just wait a couple of minutes so the chat could actually catch itself. And you will start working the January paper one for 2021. This will be the live edition. I did make a video on the paper one before. It was a short video, but in this video we will be working. I think it's 2021 and 2022 if possible. I may only work 2021, but for the moment we will be working 2021 January. So how is everyone doing? Is your day going all right? Just like to highlight if everything is all right with your end. Yes. So I will be putting the 2021 January on the screen within the next 2 minutes. So you guys prepare yourselves. We will start working in 2 minutes. Just making sure everything is all right on my end so you guys could have proper screening and stuff like that. All right, chat. We are open up. Well, let us start this paper quick. Let's start it now. You will be seeing the January paper ones for 2021 on the screen now. So let's start this paper. How is everyone doing? Hopefully everyone is good out there. Let's start this paper without further ado. We're All right, people. Let me start the January paper ones for 2021. This is the January, not the May, June. It is January and May, June is very much important. Working both of the years is very vital. Not only some children only work probably June. However, it is important that you work both of these years. Let's start this people. So this is we have 1 hour and 50 minutes to work this. We could probably get it done shorter than that. Usually I would advise students to spend around 1 to 2 to 3 minutes. Don't go to 5 minutes per question. Going around that level is very dangerous because if you're spending 3 minutes per question or 5 minutes at most, you will finish up the exam around 120 minutes. We don't want it to go around that time. So 1 to 2 minutes per question, and you move on. So, in which of the following cell structure does photosynthesis takes place? We have the ribosome, the Golgi body, the chloroplast, and the mitochondria. And I think just see what's going on in the comments. What do you guys think? Usually, if you think about it, it does not occur in the ribosome. It does not occur in the Golgi body, and it does not occur in the mitochondria. As we know, the mitochondrion is the powerhouse of a cell, and does not photosynthesis does not take place in it, right? So the correct answer in this instance would be the chloroplast. Photosynthesis does takes place in the chloroplast, right? So just to know that it does not, the Golgi body is basically something that is in referral to the cell structure. What do I mean by this? I simply mean that if you were to take it at first glance, the Golgi body is the cell wall, right? So within an animal, for example, cell, there is no cell wall. The cell wall is also referred to as the Golgi body, which is what is a function of the Golgi body? The Golgi body functions mainly for things coming into the cell and things going out of the cell, meaning that it's like a protective layer in the plant cell or the plant cell, whatever you might call it. However, this barrier is not included in what we would call the animal cell. So the mitochondrion is the powerhouse. Let us look at question 2. It says here, items 2 to 3 refer to the following diagram showing the process that occurs when crystals of potassium magnesium VII are placed in the beaker of water. So it says here the process that allows for the color to spread throughout the water. We don't know that is diffusion. And a lot of students would think it would be osmosis. However, osmosis is entirely different. Let's just do some let's just use a scenario. So just imagine for a minute we have like this class, right? This is I'm not trying to 100% neat, but just pretend this is a body of water, right? So in here we have water. Just imagine that we have water in a container like this. We have water in a container. When we add, for example, if you were to add dye, you were to add like color dye to this body of water. If you were to add like dye, for instance, within an average of 2 to 3 minutes, the particles or the dye in itself would spread out throughout the whole container, taking the 100% state of it. So within a period of time, the water inside here would have been completely diffused or joined together entirely with the dye, right? So this is just a hypothetical situation, right? So it cannot be active transport, it cannot be absorption, and it cannot be osmosis. So let's move on to 3. In the human body, the process demonstrated in the diagram above occurs between the, let's look at the answers, skin and hair, blood and the brain, trachea and the esophagus, the alveoli and the capillaries. So if you guys look at a lot of diagrams, if you guys take a look at some diagrams, the alveoli, which is basically the absorption process that occurs in human body. Like for example, the alveoli is located in your lungs. They are basically the air sacs. A lot of you guys might probably say it is located in the small intestine and the large intestine. And one, the function of the alveoli is the absorption of necessary nutrients in the body. It basically absorbs micronutrients in order for the body to function. The blood capillaries, which is basically diffuses oxygen or transforms oxygen via the heart, right? So both of these instances, the blood capillaries, both of them go through the process of diffusion, and diffusion is the spreading out. I would like to call this spreading out from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. So yes, where are we now? We are item four. Items four refer to the following food chain. The phytoplankton, we have the zooplankton, then the jellyfish, and then we have finally the turtle. So it says here in the following food chain above, the primary producer. Who is the primary producer? The primary producer is basically the person. So the primary producer is a person at the beginning. So if we were to take up a triangular diagram, and this triangular diagram really demonstrates the power dynamics in the food chain, right? So if you were to look at the bottom possesses the most power, right? The bottom possesses the most power, the most dynamic power in the entire food chain. That's where we have primary producer, then we have the consumer, then it's secondary, etc., etc. First, primary, tertiary, secondary, and what's not. The force or the producer is the person that holds the most energy. As this energy goes on to the the consumers and it keeps on moving down the line, the amount of energy within the overall food chain decreases. However, the producer is the one that starts off with the most energy, and as it goes down, that energy decreases. That's why if you were to look at triangular diagram, the base is the biggest. As we go up, we see the tip, we see it getting finer, and that's why we have the triangular diagram to actually illustrate that very much um, in its entirety. So in this case, the best answer for this would be D, the phytoplankton, because they start off with the most power or with the most power. Move on to items 5. Items 5 refers to the following diagram showing a leaf from a starch bottled plant. Let's read out the rest. So it says here the plant is exposed to sunlight for a few days and the leaf is removed and tested for starch. The color of the part labeled X would most likely be, that would be brown, right? So they did say that they leave out the plant in the sunlight, right? And usually when you're walking on the street and if you were to see a plant, for instance, you would usually find it to be a brown color. If you were to leave a plant, or for example, if you have a base of bleach in a container and you put that leaf in that container, the leaf would not turn brown, it would turn white because of the decolorization of the leaf in itself, which is the basically taking out all of the necessary nutrients, which as a result turns the leaf white through chlorination, where you put the plant or you put the leaf in this instance in bleach. So with that said, let's move on to question 6. This I don't believe this one. Let's just read the question and then we'll look at the diagram above. So it says here, which of the following, which of the persons above is considered overweight? Let's look at I. So it says here overweight would be around 25 to 29. And the only person that fits that criteria is I. So the answer for that would be C. The person in the normal weight category has a weight in kg of what? What options are we seeing? So 7. The normal weight category is wrong. So it's around 24. So that would be and the only answer for that would be 54, which is right here. So quick questions, quick answers. Let's move on to question 8. Which of the following diseases is caused by a lack of vitamin A? We have scurvy, we have rickets, we have beriberi, and we have night blindness. A majority of us, I would say, know that the answer for this would be night blindness. Usually, a deficiency in vitamin A causes night blindness. Which of the following is used to test for sugar in cereal? Um, that would be the Benedict solution. Water is required by all living things in order to transport substances that could be in the body. For example, the digestive process also. 11. Diarrhea most likely tends to lead to, the answer for this would be dehydration because of excretion of a lot of bodily fluids leads to dehydration. 12. A sample of pepsin taken from the stomach will not function in the small intestine because what options do we have? Small intestine is acidic, stomach juice is alkaline, action of pepsin is affected by temperature, small intestine has a different pH from the stomach. The reason for that would be D. Both of the acidity in the small intestine or the pH level in the small intestine and the stomach is totally different. So um, pepsin taken from the stomach will not function in the small intestine. Let's move on to item 13. So it says here, item 13 report the following diagram of part of the human digestive system. So it says here for 13, the part labeled Y is responsible for the digestion of, we have fats, we have sugar, we have starch, and we have protein. So that would be protein. This was a question in CSEC 2025. So it was a very close question. Um, so the answer for that would be right here at Y, which Y is basically the digestion of protein. So which of the following foods is an excellent source of iron? This is question 14. The correct answer for this would be liver. A lot of you guys would probably thinking of eggs or carrot or broccoli. Usually in carrot you would find something like vitamin B or vitamin E or vitamin C. In egg you would usually find something other related to that. Let's move on to question 15. We're already 1/4 of the way or 3/4 of the way, so we're on the good track. Which of the following structures of the tooth provides a surface for biting and crushing food? That would be the crown. So the crown is a very interesting structure. If you were to look at the structure of a crown, is like the big, like what comes to be the big part. If you were to look, it's something like this. I can't really get it right, 100% accurate. If you were to have like the canine teeth, that would be like the extremely sharp part of the teeth. But the surface or the biting and crushing of food, it's basically like it's a very rigid structure, a part of the teeth, meaning that it has a big surface area in order to crush or bite and crush food in its sense. The canine teeth usually is to tear food and stuff like that. The cement is a thing that holds your tooth in place. The root, totally unrelated. The pulp cavity is also totally unrelated. Honestly, they actually presented some ideas, like for example, the root, the cement, pulp cavity. An average student could look at that and say that these things are totally unrelated. So don't get trapped in questions like this. Where are we now? We are at question 16. Item 16 report the following graph. We have key non-smoker, dot. Which statement best explains the data illustrated by the graphs? Smoking reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of blood. Yes. The answer is A. I don't think I need to check the rest. I could already just look at that and say immediately right off the bat that that's the correct answer. So item 17 refers to the diagram which shows the final stages of procedure for mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. 17. What is the fourth step that must be taken in order to perform the procedure successfully? Place the porcine nostrils to prevent air from escaping. No. Place the porcine on his stomach with his hand tilting back downwards. Place the porcine on his back and press his forehead with one hand. Yes. Take a deep breath and start. No. Mm-mm. The fourth step would be place back his forehead with one hand. So we're 80 now. Which of the following are dependent on anaerobic respiration? The preparation of dough using the baking of bread, use of sugar. Yes, yes, all of these could work. Where are we now? Where are we now? Question 19. Items 19 refer to the following diagram of part of the human respiratory system. Gaseous exchange takes place at. A lot of you guys supposed to know this. Where are we? Where are we? Gaseous exchange occurs right here, which is the ear sacs. Let me just highlight that so you guys could see it. If you were to zoom in a bit right at here, these this is where this is what we consider to be the ear sacs. These little things like these little bags kind of thing. They're kind of bag like. So these are considered to be the ear sacs. The ear sacs are those things that hold the ear to say. So let's move on. Let's move down to the bottom. So the answer for this would have been C. Anyways, guys, if you are watching this video right now and you want to join the CSEC preparation or CSEC prep group for 2026, you could use my number. It is in the channel biography or the channel description. And you could find it right here. So let's move on to question 20. The oxygen carrying capacity of red blood cells is facilitated by the presence of the hemoglobin. The function of valves in the heart is to what? We have lower the pressure of blood, increase the pressure of blood. These two here, A and B, are out immediately, prevent the backflow of blood. So we have valves in the blood, in basically the blood. It's like a pipe. It opens up and it closes. So one of the reasons why we actually have that is to prevent something called the cardiovascular attack. If there was to be a backflow of blood, it could actually bust or actually destroy the veins in our body that carries blood, and as a result of that, it could actually lead to us to our deaths. Because if we have, like for example, in or internal bleeding symptom or some internal bleeding or bleeding in general, it could lead to the death of persons. So without the valve, there would have been a backflow, and if there is a backflow of blood, that could lead to a cardiovascular tension, which could eventually lead to a cardiovascular burst, which could lead to heart attack, death, and such likes. So it is important that the cardiovascular tension does not occur, and that is one of the main functions of the valves in the heart. So 22. Which of the following components of blood transports urea? I could already notice that is the plasma. The human circulatory system transports oxygen, right? Oxygen starts and nitrogen waste. That's one of the wait. Uh, C. Oxygen, nitrogenous waste, and yes, that is it. Which of the following is a function of lymph nodes? Filtration and destruction of harmful organisms. So we are at 25. We're going out to halfway. Halfway, I will take a quick break. I will take a quick break and I will be back. So let's move on to 25. Which of the following statements about the adaptations of the skeleton for movement are true? The skeleton provides a framework. That would be all three. So right out the box. Which of the following is the most severe damage caused by prolonged wearing of high-heeled shoes? Mis misalignment of bones in the feet. A ball and socket joint is located in the where the arm meets the shoulder. That's the part basically like right here. The part labeled X or part labeled X is the Bowman's capsule. The main function of the vertebral column is to protect the spinal cord. The ability of the body to maintain a constant internal environment is called um, homeostasis. So yes, I'll be back. I'm taking a short break. I'll be back with you guys in a couple. All right, we are back again. How is everyone doing? Anyways, guys, type in the chat what you guys thinking. Anyways, let's stop with the yapping. Let's start this paperwork. All right, where we know. Toward the one, the area of the brain, which acts as a. I can't see the word properly. Good. I can't get to see this. I don't. At least I got the document, but I can't get to see this one. Can you guys see that? Look at question toward the one. It's just so blurry. I can't get to see question toward the one. Like literally. At least from where I can't get to see it. So probably next video will answer toward one. But from where I am right now, I can't get to see question toward one. So 32. One of the functions of the kidney is to form urine. Yes. E. The best treatment for I can't what? Some of the questions, guys, I can't get to see. I don't know how the document is like this. These questions toward one, toward three, and toward four, I can't get to see them at all. I know a lot of you guys would usually see I wear glasses, and usually that's the reason. I can't find my glass for the longest time. Yes, let's move on to 35. The way in which a lens brings about the fine focusing of objects is called, that would be accommodation. 36. The tough membranes, which includes the photos and secretes of a watery substance for its protection, is called that would be the imituk amniotic C. I got that word. Spell that wrong. Honestly, in questions like this, guys, you could just use deductive reasoning. We don't know that the uterus is part of the female body, and that it is not responsible for excretion, and it is responsible for excretion. However, it is not to do with anything related here. The placenta, we know that is usually within the birth cycle, and the umbilical cord. All of these questions A, B, and D, we could look at that and we could already see without a sliver of doubt that all of these terms are unrelated, and just in these cases you could just use deductive reasoning. So my advice to you is that whenever you want to answer a question, if you don't know how to actually answer it properly, you could just use deductive reasoning. Look at the best choice. Look at the answers. Look at the choices that definitely cannot be the answer, and make a decision based on that. So, with that said, let's move on to question 27. Which of the following glands produces um, follicle stimulating hormone, which is FSH? That is the pituitary. That is just a weird word, guys. That's a weird word to pronounce. I know the answer, right? But I always like have troubles pronouncing. It's just so hard to pronounce. Really. It's not a really hard answer, right? But it's like just so hard to like pronounce the word in itself. The region of the human brain is responsible for balance and locomotion, which is locomotion means movement, like you're dancing. That's what locomotion means. It means that you are moving, you are actually acting, you're walking, locomotion. So for balance and locomotion is the which question we are toward it. That would be the cerebellum. The cerebellum is the part of the brain that's like right here. The part that is referred to as the cerebellum. If you got hit right here, usually in most cases, at least from recent studies and research, if someone gets hit here very hard, or at least this is the cerebellum or cerebellum, if you get hit there very hard, in most cases you will be left dumbfounded. You will be left in a very bad state. You usually persons usually when they get here, they become something called deformed. Deformity does occur when someone gets hit at the cerebellum. So 39, we're already at the closing stop. Item 39 before us the following diagram showing the human male reproductive system. In which structure are spermatozoa produced, which is basically sperms? That would be right here. This is where the spermatosis is like the fourth stage where sperms are produced. IV, usually a lot of children will look at this here and say immediately that the correct answer for this would be IV. Let me tell you why it's not IV, right? The reason why it's not IV, or right here where the red dot is on, at least on your screen, the reason why it is not that answer is because that is where sperm is stored, right? Whenever you're having sexual intercourse, then it's get released, right? IV, that is where it gets stored. It is gets stored right here, right at IV. However, where the sperms get produced, the auxin, read the question properly. Where or in which structure are sperm produced, or spermatozoa in this case? The correct answer for that would be E. Let me just say it again. Here, right here, is where sperm is stored for sexual intercourse. So we are at far now. And I did have a couple of requests personally to make a video on human and social biology preparation. If you guys want more like this, tell me in the comments after this video, or you can even tell me in the chat right now. Which of the following contraceptive methods is associated with side effects such as nausea, breast discomfort, and circulatory problems? Um, Mommy, um, is when you're taking pills, right? You just get nausea and stuff like that. Yeah, and you're taking pills as a contraceptive. Yeah? Like you're taking pills like for stop children, and you're taking the pills. You just get nausea and breast discomfort and stuff like that. You just get nausea like when you're taking pills for prevent children, like stuff like that. Or when you're making children and you're taking pills, you just get nausea as a woman for like prevent children. Very weird. Female condom, diaphragm, IUD. So, anyways, the correct answer for this case here would have been the pill, at least from what I have heard. This is the correct answer. So, the answers that I am giving you here are the official answers for CSEC. So, I don't want to distort anything, guys. And this is the official answers for CSEC that I'm giving you. So, let's look at this diagram here. Development of an embryo, which occur after formation of the ovum. Which of the following stages is P? That is right here. Implementation of the embryo. Correct is right. So we have the metallic rigid division of the zygote, development of the placenta. Before the development of the placenta, there needs to be the implementation of the embryo. The placenta is the fourth stage in a childbirth or a childbirth scenario. So the placenta is to actually even get to the placenta stage, you need to even have a child, which is the embryo. So let's move on to 42. In a multicellular organisms, whenever cells need to be replaced, cells divide by, that would be mitosis. Let me just show you guys something quick. Meiosis, I just want, because a lot of students get mixed up between mitosis and meiosis, right? A lot of children get mixed up between mitosis and meiosis. Mitosis, in the case of mitosis, there is differentiation, right? We in ourselves as parents, or for example, if you were to copulate with a woman and you have a child, that's what you consider to be um that's where we consider to be differentiation, right? So what you need to remember, I will check back if I got this wrong, because sometimes it's so uncanny. Mitosis, in the process of mitosis, or in the process of childbearing, mitosis is a process by which there is differentiation. Meiosis, there is no differentiation. For example, in the case of meiosis, we have plants. Plants, they make identical plants. Like for example, if there is a mango tree, that mango tree will bear another mango tree and another mango tree. However, it's quite different with Homo sapiens, or it's quite different with humans. We're in by chance when we make children, they don't look exactly like us. They may have different hair, they may have different color, all of these things. So that's something to note on mitosis and meiosis. One shows differentiation and one does not show differentiation. So with that said, I'm going to question 43. So an example of this continuous variation in humans is, that would be tongue rolling, right? So 44. Which of the following hormones is produced from bacteria that have been genetically engineered by humans? That would be insulin. And a lot of you guys know what insulin is. Insulin is a good bacteria, like to call it. It actually helps in a lot of processes that relates to illnesses, that relates to deformities, and a lot of things like that. So with that said, let's move on to our many questions. You don't have a lot more. If one parent is homozygous dominant for tallness and the other parent is homozygous dominant for tallness, heterozygous, sorry for that, dominant for tallness, the possible genotypes of your offspring will be, that will be one quarter, one quarter. So it will be right there. Which of the following pest is classified as a vector? That would be a rat. A rat is a vector insect. So we're already closing off. We don't have a lot more questions to answer. In order to reduce the spread of ringworm, one should avoid sheer important item walking. Us, no, what the heck? And walking barefoot in change rooms. Yes, correct. We are at 48. Which of the following is classified as an infectious disease? Diabetes. The drug heroin is an example of a narcotic. A narcotic is what they use to like reduce pain. Usually, when you're going to a doctor, they might use a narcotic to like reduce the amount of pains. Usually, for example, if you're going to a dentist and you're going to take out the teeth, they might inject a narcotic in order to reduce pain occurring in the mouth. We know. Items 54 to following bar chart, which shows the risk of dying from a heart attack or stroke for lean, normal, and obese persons. So, which of the following conclusions could be drawn from the graph? Fit, lean person is likely to suffer a heart attack. No. Fit, no, that makes no sense. I, that would be a B. No. Which of the following is a method of slowing down the progress of HIV/AIDS in infected individuals? The answer to that would be D. Which stage is prevented by keeping household refuse properly covered? That would be B. Eggs. Immunity pass from mother to fetus through way of the placenta is described as, that would be the natural passive, which is what is get at birth. So it's actually passed through a natural process. Which of the following organisms transmit the pathogen that occurs that causes malaria? That would be Anopheles mosquito. After a storm, which method should be used to make water safe for drinking? Using a fine strainer, using chlorinated tablets, boiling for at least 5 minutes, and a small amount of bleach. This is all. Should not be used using a fine strainer. That won't make any sense. A pit latrine can affect water supply by allowing the seepage of raw sewage into the water table. Which of the following phrases best describes non-biodegradable pollutants? Agricultural pollutants lead to smog, acid rain, eutrophication, global warming. That would be eutrophication. The number of persons suffering from respiratory diseases from 1990 to 2010 is be 10, 20, that'll be 35, then 30, and then 45. So if you were to put that together, that would be around 110. A landfill can be best defined as an area which is filled, nope, is nope. That would be A, in which solid waters are spread out in thin layers and compacted. And with that, that is the entire paper. I will be closing off right here. Anyways, guys, if you want any more videos related back to the CSEC early preparations, so you guys could prepare in the holidays, and you guys could watch the videos after this. Anyways, guys, thank you for all the support. Thank you for all the major help. We do have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of things to cover off. Anyways, guys, all the best. See you guys out on the next video.